While it's not hard to be better than Sunshine Islands, this game is worse than Tree Tranquility in the major ways because it's a slower experience, not only because time moves slower, outright stopping when you use or charge a tool, but the reason it outright feels slower is that no animal you're riding ever starts running. Nothing you can do will make traveling fast enough. Because it's so graphics intensive most places that you could put the game at 200 or 500% speed and not notice a difference. You can only run fast when the camera's top down or to the side of your character. It's like most of the game is on Gull Island. At least being nearly out of stamina or staying up all night doesn't kill your walking speed again. The game once again has a boring beginning that overwhelms me with cutscenes that tell me stuff I either already know from past games or I'd figure out on my own. For example, it tells me where to go to get to the Garmon Mines. It's got padding, there's nothing else to say. It's not fair that the first day starts at 10, because then you have less time to earn money. But it's convenient that you've got crops and flowers ready to harvest in the first day. I had to look up how to equip items, because you can't simply equip them from the rucksack like in other games, and the ring menu is activated with the D-pad of all things when I'm used to the camera stick or X doing that. When you bring up the magical melody style ring menu for items, it always stays up, and stuff still moves around you without time passing. At first I thought I could only plant one crop at a time, and I had to hold the button down by accident to find out I could charge up to plant 9 at once. You're never gonna waste seeds. The game has slippery controls that make watering needlessly stressful. This was also the case in Tree Tranquility, but for some reason I can't adjust the control sensitivity in this game. All of the farm plots are shaped in a diagonal way, and in this game it doesn't go to a top-down perspective when you're on one. This and no camera control means it's needlessly stressful to water your crops because you always have to move diagonally to do so. So it's easier to walk onto the wrong soil tiles and do the watering wrong. When harvesting, I like that mashing A has you automatically walk to the nearest crops on screen. Before ringing the red bell, you can't use a hot spring, but the excuse you're given is that it's too cold, which means you'll be lucky if you feel like using it when it's raining to see if it works. But at least it's in your farm. This is the first game with a 24-hour clock, which makes things confusing since guides still use the normal time system when telling you when to do things. What's bad level design is there being nothing to forage on the right side of the southeast beach of your farm, because you'll go all the way there for nothing. At least the foraging areas are all on the way to stores. And I love that if you don't pick up the foraged things, they pile up after a while. But you still have to go out of your way off the path to get stuff. And occasionally you can't pick something up at all. It's weird though that you can get mushrooms all year long. Convenient that you can still forage berries and mushrooms in the winter. It's so wrong that the game says fruit after the name of each berry. You buy seeds and fertilizer for one tile at a time. So you have to buy more stuff, which means it takes longer to finish being done in the seed shop. You're gonna be confused at the start of the game and not buy enough seeds and stuff. And you're definitely gonna be confused going back to Tree Tranquility. Shopping is not only better in that you can instantly go from 0 to 99 by pressing left on an item, but it's also a lot faster buying a bunch of items at once. It's confusing to get used to, but it'll make you wish every game did this. You have to go right on an item to register that you're going to buy it, and then you can do that for other items. Then when done shopping, instead of being able to press B and keep what you bought like in most games, you have to remember to press A over 1 to ask to pay for everything and choose yes. So you buy everything at once. It makes it feel like a real shop. It's easily the best shopping in the series. For the most part, the level design is better in this game than Tree Tranquility because the game doesn't have a waste of time residential area with nothing but houses. And instead people usually live in their stores again, and it's sort of easy to remember what stores are closed because nearly every store in a district is closed on the same day, with the exception of the inn that's only closed on holidays. It's great that you can exit houses without having to press A every time now, and rooms as long as it's a south door. I like that there's finally a school building that's not just a part of the town hall. But I'll never take it seriously that the teacher's never in there and yet the kids go there. The level design for Harmonica Town's upper area is a confusing mess because of all the staircases. So even months in-game later, it's still hard to memorize how to get to places. The town has a store that gives you a free camera to take photos and has an option to make a portrait of you. I think it's pointless, so I always ignored it. It only means I have to take even longer to buy everything. And it forces cutscenes on me that there's nothing to say about when my kid or a rival's kid grows up. At least I can avoid the cutscene for the rival's kid if I never go into the store again. On the modded version of the game, all the photos are black anyways. You no longer walk slower when tired, like in Tree Tranquility. But the game doesn't have a seed maker like Sunshine Islands does. And yet it takes after it by not having part-time work to make the beginning easier anymore. Of course, items no longer have a bunch of rankings for stuff like freshness and size in this game, so they always stack when you put them away. Too bad they got rid of having 4 item slots. This is decent lettuce, from soil fertilized 3 times the day before. And that was my last opportunity to get good lettuce for Ruth. Fertilizer feels like it works less in this game, and I looked it up as a result. I tested it at one point and used a bunch of shining fertilizer and harvested the results, then reloaded and harvested without fertilizing. And I ended up with a similar amount of decent crops and even more good crops without it. This footage shows the second test where they became perfect. For no reason, there's now 5 soil qualities instead of the 3 from Tree of Tranquility. And for some reason, fertilizer wears off after 2 weeks of having crops in the soil. And on GameFAQs, it says it takes a month to wear off instead. Considering that past games let you plant potatoes from the start, it's bullshit that you have to unlock potatoes and the game doesn't tell you how. But the game makes up for it by having the overpowered strawberries be available from the start of the game. Although as usual it balances it by having them be ridiculously expensive. This seems to be the first game where after you get rid of wet soil and then till the same tiles, those tiles stay watered. You can't tell if wet soil needs fertilizer though, but it still saved me time watering, so that really impressed me, more than anything else in the game. I hate that once again you can't buy the fishing rod, and you don't start out with it even though you start out with other tools, so there's really no excuse. Time's frozen when fishing, which means that if you spend all day fishing, the day takes forever. The worst part about fishing in this pair of games is that if you get one more item than your inventory holds, instead of being able to hold it anyways like the previous games, you're expected to throw one of your items away or throw it away, and this sneaks up on you. Normally, if your inventory is full, you can't pick it up at all. In this game, you can still put something in the bonfire even if it makes a failed dish. So if you remember grilled clam from Tree Tranquility, you'll be disappointed if you try to make it. At least you can make a bonfire wherever again. But if you don't get rid of the bonfire, the next morning the mayor wastes your time lecturing you for it. And I'm just wondering how he even knew about it. Again, I love that you can put anything in your toolbox now. Why do I have to buy an incubator from an unlockable place? It's great that you have a barn and coop from day 1 again. The game never tells you you can get a cow from going to Kane's barn, or that saying you're not ready for it means you can't get it. It's great that you can buy fully grown animals. You can only buy fully grown animals after leveling up the animal shop. Once again, pressing start when naming doesn't bring the cursor to select. What's also a potential waste of time is default names are back. I like being able to pet animals, but hate when I can't see the hand actually make contact with them. Why do I have to press A twice to get to pet one? I have to wait to learn if they're hungry. Barn animals only let you hand feed them outside, so you'd only discover you could from stubbornness after being used to Magical Melody. That sucks because hand feeding always raised affection more. The animals can spend all day outside with a lot of grass growing and still a few of them won't eat anything, so I always have to check which ones ate before going to bed, which means even more loading screens. Unlike in Tree Tranquility, you can't go inside and have all of them eat. It sucks that the animals graze on your crops. It means you have to water all the crops before putting them out to graze, which means it would take even longer for them all to finish eating. Like in Tree Tranquility, it's better to just grill fish, because making more money from cooking is too complicated with a fish when it comes to making sashimi. And you have to manually bring cooking utensils to the kitchen. Ever since Tree Tranquility, you can't choose where the kitchen is anymore. As usual, what ruins cooking as an experience is that you can't cook more than one at a time. You can't cook by choosing a recipe either, which also applied to Tree Tranquility. You can't press a button to go from the rucksack to the slot with already selected ingredients and back to cook faster. Usually cooking in this game is convenient because the most commonly made recipes were carried over from Magical Melody, and you don't have to learn a recipe in-game to make it. Which means you don't get to buy it anymore if you learned it from making it or pressing A in a house at a certain part of it. It's good that getting recipes is once again pointless instead of required to cook at all. The recipe list in the bookshelf doesn't bother saying how much money the recipes go for, or anything goes for, causing you to look up a guide. You can still cook while holding things now. It's just that every so often you'll accidentally open the prompt to eat, or drink, or put down. The game also tricks you into making a failed recipe because all the other berries let you make jam from 2 of them, but not cranberries. In the description of cranberries, it says it can be made into jam, but can't. And I'm lucky I never thought to try to make strawberry juice. It's total bullshit that using a banana in a mixer gets you a failed recipe again. Why do you have to see a broken heart after shearing? Why can't you shear sheep or milk from behind or the front anymore? That'd have been faster. It sucks that you have to wait for an animal to sit up for a second after you choose to interact with it if it was sitting down. Why are they programmed to sit down? Again, there's only 28 days in the months. I like getting a rank and 50 and then 70 good fertilizer at the end of each month. What you get depends on how much you've shipped the most. But the fertilizers don't absolutely guarantee you'll get a crop of the rank associated with the fertilizer, like I naturally expected from what they're named. I hate that they made crop quality more random instead of skill-based for no reason. Fertilizer worked perfectly in Magical Melody. With it being so lame, it's actually better to get food as a reward at the end of the month because you can ship it. The reward for getting a Super Rancher rank is 60 pies that you can sell to make over 60,000 G. It feels like in an immediate reward sense, the game's got a better reward for that ranking. Earlier games didn't waste your time making you go to the side of the cow to milk it if you tried milking the wrong part of it. The game shouldn't let you do an animation with a milker for a cow already milked, when it doesn't make you do an animation if you try to milk something you can't. But I love that no stamina is used up tending to your animals. The game makes you turn away from a maker every time you use it to make things take longer. When it comes to the makers, the DS games let you convert the entire stack of stuff you're carrying at once. But in this game, it's still one at a time. I hate being able to see the music note over hungry animals. Animals get stressed every day. Apparently, 2 consecutive days of that means they get sick. Eventually, I assumed the stress was because either they weren't going outside, or by the time I put them inside, the bell wakes them up because they're asleep. In Tree Tranquility, they went inside because you went to sleep. This is unfair to the players who are always going to stay up late. I've read that the reason they get cranky is because you don't pet them every day. It's already a punishment that you aren't raising their affection as much by not petting them every day. But I'm willing to take that for a faster experience. Like in Tree Tranquility, for no reason, eggs aren't laid outside anymore. There aren't different rankings for duck and ostrich mayonnaise. Which means the game tricks new players who don't follow a guide into not making as much money. They would be anyways, because boiling non-perfect eggs and non-perfect milk is more profitable than using them the makers or not doing that, sadly. Mushroom soup's more profitable than hot milk. Turns out you can milk sheep every 3 days. I only found out in the winter, because I didn't expect the milker to be able to do that, and didn't think its description would contain any new info after all these games. I wish that I could have been shown that sheep milk existed from an unavoidable cutscene that's short. For example, the mayor should have given me some. I hate that when someone's in the mining district of town and you track them, you're told he's in the mines, making you instinctively check inside the mine, which might be a waste of time. If it just says mine, the character is in the mine. How did Renee teleport from the fishery to her ranch? The game doesn't program Renee as walking from the fishery back home. Mining's like it is in Tree Tranquility. It's a challenge to precisely aim your hammer at the rocks because they're so small considering how slippery the controls are. If you pick the opposite direction to walk in the mines, it's like Mario 64. And you don't know whether it's going to be left or right. This error could send you into a pit. After choosing the leave mine option, which is also conveniently in the forest every time you try to leave a screen, you still need to walk through the unnecessary first room. Reloading a save state 100 times while hitting the same rock reveals that each rock in the mine is coded to have a chance of only giving you some types of ores and wonderfuls. So you can't even hit the same rock till you get a gold ore. The rocks in there that take more hits to smash never give you ores. While it's good that you can increase the amount of stone materials you have in the mine and the forest with these, I'd rather they not have the material in the game. I hate that pearls and mushrooms seem to look the same on the floor. There's a hot spring in 2 of the mines at least. It's confusing that there's 2 white gases, and one's for speeding up, and the other's for slowing you down so that you actually control well. Like in Tree Tranquility, the gases don't spring up by spreading away from the source slowly like in Magical Melody. They stay where they are only briefly and then disappear from there and go in other places, which makes it easy to not activate the gas effect even when you want to, but also makes it harder to avoid it. And the healing gas doesn't heal nearly as much as it did in Magical Melody. I'm sure that applied to Tree Tranquility too, but there was so much wrong with that game that I couldn't have possibly said everything about it. And it's confusing that the healing gas is green, not the cold gas. Colds are much more common in this game. I went my entire playthrough of Tree Tranquility without ever getting a cold. But having a cold doesn't seem to do anything. It's not like it constantly makes you stop what you're doing to sneeze, and I don't notice it making my stamina decrease more when I use tools, or over time. I only get the cold medicine because I feel sorry for the character. I'm sure it does make your stamina decrease more. At least, I remember reading that in Tree Tranquility, but I never noticed a difference in this game. Having colds in the game for the sake of adding realism is pointless if they are only achieved by magical cold-causing gas in the mine, instead of appearing at random. Don't annoyingly require a constant supply of tissues to get out and use, and don't annoyingly make you stop and sneeze a lot. And as I also worried would be the case, don't make your crops or animal products get tainted from your sneezing or make your animals sick. I'm glad they're not like that, but what I just described is why you shouldn't have colds in video games. Remedies don't cure colds, even though the description of one says they cure the effects of mind gas. In Magical Melody you could walk over cracks sometimes and not fall or be sent up, but you're practically guaranteed to break the crack no matter what in this game. If you're sent to another floor, then the ores on the floor disappear, even though the game remembers how many rocks are left on each floor. That was the case in the previous game too. This is probably from Sunshine Islands, but your character doesn't become drowsy from eating 14 mushrooms anymore. I figured out where they put that in Tree Tranquility though. It's supposed to encourage you to bring cooked items. The first mine is the least likely to give you anything from the rocks, so at that point in the game you'll be better off continuing foraging because it's a guaranteed profit. With mining early on, you could risk only finding a few ores. I needed a guide to know to get the accessory shop that refines ores up and running again. The instructions for this were in the manual in Tree Tranquility, but nobody reads the manuals before they play games like this. You want to experience it for yourself. I wouldn't be surprised if the manual told you to do this too, but I doubt it tells you which dialogue to choose. I had to pick the right dialogue tree options with Mira when she was specifically in the church. Now the accessory and ore refining place and blacksmiths are 2 separate shops, so you have to wait through even more loading times than Tree Tranquility. It turns out every ore in Wonderful can produce something. The fact that you have to play roulette to get something refined successfully complete with having to pay for it per ore, is one of the biggest problems with the game. You can save scum before every refining. All the console games make the mistake of not letting you save wherever you want. It's better with save states, but it's far less frustrating to just take the loss, and only save scum for the gold and rare metal. Gold and rare ore is way too rare. You aren't forced to refine every single thing in your inventory at once anymore, because you can press A twice to separate an item from its stack. Any wonderful of a color can produce anything associated with that color. In Trade Tranquility, you have to go all the way to damn near the bottom of the mine to get the rarest 3 sparkle gems, which can take a ridiculous amount of time even when not breaking every rock in the way. Maybe I didn't upgrade the accessory store all the way, but there's only a pearl ring option, not a diamond ring option. Oh, I didn't. Why in the world do you need to upgrade it for that? She'd already know how to do diamond rings. She's been in the business for years. Many accessories require enough ores to be shipped first. Now you can buy an accessory for someone else again. This means having to press A another time every time you ask to see the accessory so you can say it's for you. Sadly, the blacksmiths need upgrading too, and you need to progress the actual story to do so, which you would never expect. You'd end up looking up a guide, wondering why the hell you can't upgrade your tools all the way. While in Trade Tranquility, you could ignore all the rainbows and still have just good a time. When you upgrade the blacksmith, there's an unnecessary cutscene to tell me it's upgraded. In Trade Tranquility, you didn't have to take a million years to get the best tools in the game. You could just buy everything from the general store from the first day if you had enough money. But this game completely removes the option to buy tools from the general store, because as usual they're confusing harder game with better game. One of the reasons it is a better game is you can use less stamina for a tool if you use it enough. And you need 3 medals to upgrade tools now. The level 2 skill is only 1 more square, and the level 3 one is only 1 more square. While the best hammer does make mining easier, it also makes it a little more stressful because you have to consider when to use its best skill, and sometimes it's just not necessary. Eventually, the tailor says she could upgrade your rucksack in exchange for gifts that you were already collecting. And you can give all 10 herbs needed at once to the tailor to get the new rucksack. She gives you new rucksacks without a time skip, which means she already made them by the time you gave her all that stuff. But at least that's faster. You can only get it after ringing the yellow bell. Not that guides say that. So I had a miserable time trying to get footage for this, and repeatedly failing. I know you can buy all the materials for the rucksack upgrades in Trade Tranquility at the festivals, but it's really not instinctive to check to see if you can buy stuff at festivals. So that's a second playthrough thing for me. You won't know to buy all the ingredients for the rucksack upgrade before you meet Shelly, at which point it's too late. The hot spring uses no time and is on your farm close to your house, but doesn't restore all of your stamina from near empty, and gives you a text box every time you use it for no reason. When you try using the hot spring a second time, the game wastes your time going to black screen and then back just for you to be told it was already used. But at least it tells you that it's already used faster than Trade Tranquility did. The game never tries to properly justify the 1-day limit. The spring's still steaming. Getting the best rucksack is no longer unfair. It no longer requires shining silk. The worst it requires is wool of a quality that's no big deal compared to waiting forever to get a shining anything. You can buy the rest of what you want or get it yourself. I'd still rather get to buy better rucksacks like in other games. Every time you unlock new items at a store, you have to sit through a boring cutscene about it at the store when you already got sent a letter about them. How was I supposed to know you get tree fruit by walking to the tree? I got none from the default tree in my farm for an entire year until the next summer. Even then, it can take 2 attempts to get fruit to fall. At least you can get it daily. That doesn't make up for a year without any fruit because you weren't told how to get the fruit, or the fact that you weren't told the trees originally on your farm produce fruit. It's better to cut them down anyways because it's more profitable to have multi-harvest crops on every square than to have trees only profitable once a season. Watering tall crops like tomatoes and corn is really stressful because it's hard to tell whether you've watered the soil. And the tall crops are the most profitable ones. It's where the cucumbers are back to being single harvest. Typhoons get rid of way more of your crops than Tree Tranquility. It can get rid of thousands of G worth of seeds to replant with no way to avoid that because there's no seed maker. Replanting after is a nightmare, especially since the tall plants are in the way, and now hitting plants with their hoe stuns you for a few seconds, like in Tree Tranquility. Not like that's new. Good thing you can't use up a seed by planting in the wrong place. I replayed Tree Tranquility recently, and I don't remember ever having to do this. Imagine how much you'd want to quit the game after multiple typhoons in a row. There's no greenhouse in this game. When you get a big animal to 5 hearts, you can ride it. You'll do it for 2 seconds and stop because it's slower than walking and running. The wiki doesn't tell you that hearts equal speed this time around, but the FAQ does. But they're still never fast no matter what. There's too much slowdown. Even the horse takes 5 hearts to let you ride it, even though that's what it's for. The horse is so agonizingly slow that I timed it. I tried riding a sheep with max hearts and it was still just as slow. You'd think a game called Animal Parade would improve the animals. Not make it so that you can only have 3 species at a time in a barn, and make animal riding lame when it'd be a selling point of the game. It's 50 seconds faster without the horse to forage all of Flute Fields. The time when riding an animal for it was 1550. It was 1510 without riding. Of course, having to get off the animal doesn't help. It's weird that the info about the game insists the horse is twice as fast as walking. This is a problem for me even when I'm sped up. I timed how long it takes to get from one point to another with a 10-second minimum with and without riding. And riding is basically the same speed. I sold the horse. It's unacceptable and embarrassing that in a game called Animal Parade, I had to spend the whole game with the normal animals. In Tree Tranquility, goats were more profitable than cows, which isn't something you'd expect after a wonderful life. Having to have normal animals isn't so bad if they're the most profitable ones, but it doesn't make any sense. Speaking of the barn, there's now 2 upgrades for the barn and coop, but it's not like the level 3 upgrade lets you have more animals than the max barn usually has. It just means the level 2 barn and coop only have a tiny increase in the animal maximum. So having a 3rd level doesn't mean anything but having to spend more money and cut more lumber and smash more rocks than you would have to in other games. Why do you need to get to level 3 to be allowed to buy an ostrich or silkworm? Well, it's great that recipes aren't a separate thing when it comes to shipping anymore. I thought that was too good to be true. So you can still upgrade the animal shop by selling boiled eggs. The game brings back automatic lumbering as long as you keep using the axe after getting rid of some wood. Occasionally the automation doesn't kick in, and you walk over branches, so it's harder to chop them when that happens because if you're standing over one, you'll miss it and inexplicably do a horizontal axe swing that should have been in the game. When it comes to hitting ground wood anyways. There's no way to get lumber unless you chop trees or stumps, which you can do on day 1, but you don't get to go into the forest until later. Older games let you find branches all over and chop them from day 1. Also, when you charge up a lot with the axe, even though you spin, you still can't chop up surrounding stuff, just what's in front of you. You can't chop a line of branches in front of you from charging like in the previous game. Lame. Unlike in Magical Melody, you can barely tell the difference between the charge ups, so you have to count how many flashes there were. I love that the Carpenters does instant renovation and building. That caught me off guard. The game design is so bad that they felt the need to make an ostrich incubator instead of letting you incubate ostrich eggs with a regular incubator. They did that in Tree Tranquility too. Also, don't buy goats. Common sense would make you expect their milk to be better because they're available later in the game, and they were the best animal in Tree Tranquility. But their milk's actually less profitable than cow milk. At least it hints at it if you look at the sales prices of the various milks. Another thing that's new to this game is that you can brush an ostrich, which means you're obligated to brush it every single day until you can ride it. I'd rather its affection rate is faster without needing a brush. It sucks that barnyard animals die in just 2.5 years, no matter how much you reload. Even if you stay up to 6 AM in the mine, Finn will tell you that your animal's dying anyways. Another reason for me to hate him. Because my plan to wait until 8 AM and sell the animal was foiled because of him. I'd swear the animals are hard-coded to die on Thursdays. Because this happened to me twice, just so I couldn't sell it. The game doesn't randomize what's supposed to. In other games, reloading before going to sleep would save your animal. You can't sell livestock over the phone for no reason. Grapes grow in the field. Pumpkins are multi-harvest fall crops that are better than yams this time. It takes forever to get new clothes. I have to wait until the first fall to get more. You'd think you only have to wait a month. You can order them over the phone, but that's obtuse, and since it's double priced there, you are forced to wait until fall to save money. They're mostly tomboyish, and there's no fully black clothes or purple ones. For the girl, at least. It's bad enough the default autumn outfit is an ugly brown jacket. At least you aren't forced to not wear an outfit just because it's no longer spring or summer. Clothes in the style of the default female outfit make you wish they didn't have sleeves and a part that covers the belly button. The only fully red shirt for the guys is the sporty outfit, and that's not quite red enough. And what if I don't want an outfit that's associated with sports? Why isn't there a clothing dye option? Or at least a way to sell your clothes? That applied to Tree Tranquility too. You have to select clothes to see them, so you always select the wrong ones until you memorize the names of the good ones. Especially in the mod version where the game doesn't bother displaying the names of the clothes you actually get. This applies to Tree Tranquility too. The first day of winter, not only did all my grass seeds die, but some rocks and boulders covered my field when it wasn't a blizzard out. It happened again the last day. While you can plant crops in the winter at least, that doesn't excuse never being able to grow any crops you want, when even the earliest games let you. And this would have made cooking every recipe much easier. How are you supposed to know when you start the game that you have to hoard crops for next year when the game never tells you there's no greenhouse in it? Sure, you wouldn't see one in the carpenter's shop, but this is the game where you have to upgrade the shops for some reason. So you just assume that you have to upgrade the shop to get the greenhouse option.